Hey, the initial SEC availability report was released last night by both Texas and Florida. And I'll say this, big picture, Texas looks a lot better than Florida's. Because Texas, as we've said, Texas is the healthiest and freshest team in the SEC, having played just one really difficult game a month ago, and now, or more than a month ago now, and then had a bye week and been able to play a lot of starters, get starters off their feet during the 3 preseason games, essentially. So the only player listed as doubtful for Texas is C.J. Baxter. And that's just a hamstring. You can't rush that. He pulled his hamstring 3 weeks ago against UTEP. And I don't think we're going to see C.J. Baxter. And I know he's going to be disappointed about that. That's a trip back to Florida. He's from that state, and he's doubtful now. We'll get an update from Sark from his own mouth today at about 11:30. He'll do his weekly Thursday Zoom availability. But on the questionable list, which I think means they're probably going to play, that's Emmett Mosley, who we haven't seen. Number 3, by the way, when you see the game on Saturday, and we have not seen Emmett Mosley take the field, the Stanford transfer. Much ballyhooed Stanford transfer who came in during the spring portal. He wears number 3, and he is questionable. Quintravion Wisner is also questionable, and Kobe Black. I think they're all good. And then there's 2 names on the probable, which would tell you Malik Muhammad is dealing with something small, and Xavier Filsaime, who's missed a couple of games, he'll be probable too. So Longhorns fresh. Meanwhile, the other side of this game is Florida. They have a starting running back, or a top running back that's out, Trayshawn Webb, but that's all right. Their best running back is Jaden Baugh, and he's really good. Number 13, he's one of their best offensive players. But how about this on that defense, Jack, that has already faced the likes of LSU and Florida and Miami, I should say, a very physical South Florida team. They are without 5 guys that are real contributors or starters on their defense that are listed as out. That would be their edge, L.J. McCray, that's a big loss for them. And then 3 DBs are out. Aaron Gates, Dijon Johnson, both out. That's a problem for them. So their defense is a little bit banged up, and that's been the strength of their unit so far. So here's my thought on this, Jack. Big picture, and we'll talk about it today, tomorrow, and into our pregame show out at Doc's Backyard on Saturday. But after studying Florida, we had a talk with Nick Marcinko yesterday, an insider, covers Florida, ahead of this matchup to win it, and Texas should win this game. They're a 7.5-point favorite for a reason. They have to have their offensive line and running game show up in a big way. They have to against this front. But even more importantly to me, it's a Steve Sarkisian game. And I know that it may sound, master of the obvious, the head coach who makes $10.5 million, but he's also the play caller. This is an opening script, game plan, patience game for Sark. Off a bye week, plenty of time to prepare. He has to be at his best early because, yes, there are plenty of storylines entering this week's matchup, but, look, this features the number 1 overall quarterback in the class of 2023 in Arch Manning and the number 1 overall quarterback in the nation in the class of 2024. That's DJ Lagway out of Willis, Texas. But both, we know, have struggled to perform to that lofty status early on in their young careers. Because of that, it features 2 programs with much ballyhooed quarterbacks who are trying to find their offensive identity early on in the season. And, when we did talk to Nick Marcinko yesterday, listen to him, because I said, well, look, this is the Florida has a history with the Mannings. So this is going to be a wild crowd, right? This is going to be a frothing crowd because here come the Longhorns and here comes Arch Manning. And listen to Nick Marcinko of GatorCountry.com saying, I don't know. This fan base isn't in a very good mood.
This Manning Lagway, I wrote about it being one of the more anticipated games in Florida football history.
Yeah.
You're talking about 2, number 1 quarterbacks in their own class, and neither have had a ton of experience, but both obviously very talented. And that was a game preseason you circled on the schedule if you're a Florida fan. That was, like I said, before the season, one of the more anticipated games that I've ever been to or covered or even seen. Regardless of just Florida football. I was super excited about this game, and I know a lot of fans were too. And we'll see. Florida fans, they like to say they won't show up, and we're obviously seeing a lot of that. But, come kickoff, there'll be a crowd in there, and they'll be cheering on the Gators. So, we'll see. I'm hoping for a good atmosphere, but, it wouldn't surprise me, either way.
All right, so kind of a dud atmosphere, right? All the ballyhoo he's talking about in the preseason has, now they're 1-3. And safe to say that Billy Napier's job security is at DEFCON 1 right now. It's a real problem. He's toast with one more bad loss, a lot of people think. So that, for me, this is why this is on Sark, because you can't feel sorry for your buddy Billy Napier, and I'm not saying he will, but you're the game day play caller. And you have to design one to help your young quarterback get in a rhythm. And because if you take an early lead in this game, if you get up double digits, go up 10-0, that crowd's out of it. They'll start leaving.
Exactly.
And getting on the hold to call the post-game call-in show to tell them to fire Billy Napier. But here's the deal. But despite the 1-3 start, Florida has played a much tougher schedule than Texas, so they are arguably more battle-tested. But they have a really tough and stubborn defense. You know what's really weird about their defense? They don't sack the quarterback. Florida has just 3 sacks in 4 games. They're 135th out of 136 in sacks. But they also don't allow big plays down the field. Mm-hmm. The Gators have only allowed 8 plays of 20 yards or more, which ranks them inside the top 15 in the country. And they've played Garrett Nussmeier. They've played Carson Beck. So you have to have so this is where it's on Sark in my mind. You know this. You've watched the film. You've had a week to prepare. They refuse to bring pressure, and they don't have a great pass rusher, especially with the kid that I mentioned hurt and out, their best edge. But they won't bring extra people. Mm-hmm. They're going to play the 2-high umbrella, or sometimes 3-high. So, and they tackle really well. They get teams off the field. They don't let 5-yard passes turn into 20-yard passes so far this year. They tackle the ball. So, and take, for example, Sark can see these. Garrett Nussmeier, really good quarterback. He completed 55% of his passes, 15 of 27 through a touchdown and a pick. Carson Beck, 17 of 30, 56% completions, 160 yards total, and an interception. Miami was able to escape with a 26-7 victory, but don't let that score fool you. It was 13-7 late into the second quarter. Or late into the second half, I should say. And then their defense ran out of gas, and after being on the field the whole game down in South Florida, and they put a couple touchdowns on the board late. But that game was 13-7 into the second half, into the fourth quarter, and then Miami extended it. So, point being, Sark's got to be patient. So you got to bring your run game and your offensive line, and Trey Wisner, and how about Jared Gibson going back to Florida? You know, he was one time committed to Florida.
He was.
He can't turn the football over, but he's going home.
The IMG.
Cedric Baxter's not going to get to do that, but Jared Gibson will. And, you know, that's an opportunity for that young guy. They have to be able to, because they're going to give you the run at some level. If your line will open some holes. They're not going to bring safeties into the box. They're not going to bring extra people. They don't bring blitzes that often. Now, they could pull a surprise party. I'm just giving you through 4 games. They only have 3 sacks. But they don't give up big plays, which tells me they're playing a lot of coverage, and they're making you go length of the field. So on Sark to dial up a game plan that attacks this defense, but also gets Arch Manning into a rhythm. And don't have Arch forcing the football down the field into things that aren't there to create trouble. Just get the ball into your playmakers' hands. Let Arch be the point guard. He played point guard in high school, won a state championship. Get the ball to your playmakers. Get in short, quick passes, whatever you have to do. Use the crossing routes. Arch has to be accurate and fundamentally sound, but this has to be a Sark game plan that protects his quarterback, but at the same time gets his quarterback into a rhythm, because you can attack this defense, but you have to be patient with it. Mm-hmm. And that's where I'm going to be watching. And can Sark have a dialed-up script, the first 20, 25 plays that they've repped a lot this week, where they could build a lead? Because to me, you know, this thing gets close. It's close into the fourth quarter. Because, look, the 2 games they've lost, they lost to South Florida at home on a field goal, but then they lost at Baton Rouge. They lost at Miami. This home crowd has not been there to watch these last couple of games. If they're in this game and they got a chance to beat Arch Manning and they can see Arch Manning is starting to rattle, they'll get into this game. If you can take them out of this game early, they'll leave.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, just take what the defense is giving you.
Yes.
I think Emmett Mosley being back is huge in terms of blocking on the outside edge.
Well, and just
DeAndre Moore.
You know, the comp for him when you watch him on film is Jordan Whittington.
Yeah. And
he's your end around guy. Mm-hmm. He's your quick screen guy while you're letting Ryan Wingo take the top off, or Parker Livingston has shown the deep ball capability. DeAndre Moore's underneath. You've got weapons, but Sark has to scheme it, and Sark has to get his quarterback into a comfortable rhythm against a team that's only sacked the quarterback 3 times all season.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, so, okay, Sark, let's go. Mastermind.
And Florida hasn't exactly had the luxury of playing a conservative or, you know, hiding stuff in their game plan. They weren't holding this until now. They had to use it against LSU and Miami.
100%. That's all out there. Texas has been able to hold some things back.
Texas is not.
Yeah. So build your game plan, get your quarterback in a rhythm. And here's the thing, the other thing about getting a lead in this game, in addition to the crowd getting out of it, they can't come back. Your defense is elite. Your defense will get 3 sacks in the first half potentially against DJ Lagway if they're on point. So again, you got to play a clean game. You can't put yourself behind the chains against this team with penalties. So this one's on Sark. This game plan, I'm going to study it for sure as we're going through our in-game watch. You have to be on point with this game plan because we've seen. Here's where I am with Arch. Arch is still emotionally immature. A bad throw or two, and he could spiral. He can lose it. It feels like to me at this stage of his young career. So you get him in a rhythm, get him going with easy passes. And take advantage of a defense that's not aggressive, ultra aggressive. Because the next week you're going to have a totally different game plan against Brett Venables. Brett Venables will be bringing people from everywhere. You're going to have a whole new idea. But against this team, because Oklahoma had 10 sacks in one game against Auburn 2 weeks ago. Florida has 3 sacks all year. So this game plan's on you, Sark. And then we'll probably say the same thing next week. But for this young quarterback, it's very, very important because it's a very winnable game. If you come out with a smart, crisp game plan, and you win workmanlike, use your offensive line and your run game, get your playmakers the ball. This can be a game that by halftime you're feeling really, really good about. Or it's a game you're going to sweat all the way to the finish line. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to give DJ Lagway and this Florida offense at home hope and this team hope, the fan base hope. You can take it out of them early.